It feels great to be back. It feels great for the boys to see them get out there and do this. It feels great for the community that came out and followed us tonight. What a great crowd. Shows you what we got in North Haven.
How was it for you, just the last week?
Very stressful. Very stressful. But, you know, you can take the pats on the back. You got to take the punches in the face. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so we stepped up in a big moment, and that's what great players do, that's what great teams do. We set high heart goals and we expect to reach them. We haven't won here since 2010, and we haven't beaten them since 2013. So that is a high-quality win against a very good opponent.
We just played a really good team, a really good Shelton team, and I couldn't be more proud of my guys. This whole week, we've been focusing on those little things, like I said last week, and we just keep building momentum each day at practice out here, and I couldn't be more grateful to be with these guys.
2, 3, 4. Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to the Meat Grinder, your weekly dose of high school football in Connecticut. And I am your host, Sean Patrick Bowley. With me, as always, is Peter Paguaga. Petey, how are you?
Good. Second week in a row, we got to mention we are an award-winning podcast.
Oh, I made a mental note to say that, and then I completely.
We just got to let the people know you guys are listening to an award-winning podcast.
That's right. Connecticut Society of Professional Journalists saw fit to give us an award this offseason. We really appreciated it. We were not the award ceremony because we were on assignment, probably somewhere doing something. But thank you very much for that. So welcome to another episode of the week. We got a busy show for you today. Coming up a little later, Bunnell coach Ty Jenkins will join us with our first guest of the season. Lots to talk about with him because we have another massive week of Alliance games coming up. We'll get to that. But, for Pete, for a week that was like what was supposed to be kind of the off week. We have the Alliance week 1, we have Alliance week 3, and in between was just regularly scheduled programming. But because of the high holidays, because of Rosh Hashanah, we had games on Thursday, we get games on Friday, we get it on Saturday, and we had a game on Sunday, and there's a game being played tonight on Monday. So what's that? 5 days. What is this? The NFL or college? This is crazy.
And if you go back to last week, we played Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. There was a game on Monday that got postponed. Then it was Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and a game on Monday. So 10 days of football in a 14-day, 13-day swing.
Yeah, for a guy who's, pushing 50 here, it's getting exhausting. And I somehow managed to drag myself up to go up to Wethersfield to see Southington, despite my best thoughts otherwise to the country. I shouldn't have done that, but I managed to do it. So lots to get to, Pete. We're going to start off today, but with North Haven, which, as you recall, forfeited week 1 to Darien, inappropriate student conduct. They took the weekend to figure it out, and right after we recorded the podcast, they came out with that. The superintendent came out with. They did the investigation. Apparently, they made they figured that out. They made the punishments, and North Haven was cleared to play Saturday at Sheehan. Which, I went to go cover that game with Mike Fornabato. I thought it was at Sheehan. Completely forgot they're getting their field done. So here I am, dummy, sitting over there, I get to the field. I go, oh, son of a, it's at Lyman Hall. So I had to go all the way across town, got there just in time. Let me tell you, Pete, it was mobbed. It was the North Haven opener. They didn't get to play at home last week. And it was mobbed. The whole town in North Haven seemed like came out. The parking at Lyman Hall is already bad. And they were packed the field. They packed every nook and cranny you could find. People were parking on curbs. They're parking in the lots. They're parking down the street. And, they were just lined up. And the ticket line was out the door. And North Haven, as we thought, because they didn't play a game last week, a little rusty, lots of mistakes early. And Sheehan already looking like they're going to go up 14-0 going in. But right off the bat, they finally, Connor Rapuano picks off Paul Glory and takes it 79 yards back the other way. And then get used to this name, Pete, Joey Mastriani, with Adam Pandolfi apparently hurt for at least another 2 weeks. The junior, Joey Mastriani, had a massive game. He throws the touchdown pass to give North Haven its first lead of the season. Then, after Sheehan tied it up with this nice ball from Gorey to Dante Donoso to tie the score up, Mastriani takes the ensuing kickoff all the way back into Sheehan territory and then sets up his own touchdown run on a naked bootleg to give North Haven the lead for good, 21-14. And with time running down in the half, he scoops up a Sheehan fumble, brings it back into the 20. North Haven plagued by lots of mistakes. The high snap here on the field goal attempt keeps them 21-14 going into halftime. That was okay because Eric Vetrano kicks a 37-yard field goal for a 10-point lead for North Haven, and they were able to kind of pin their ears back on defense. Lots of nice plays. We're able to wear down Sheehan on offense, and that was it. Yeah, Tristan Dos, late TD run, 31-14. Sheehan tacks on one more touchdown. That was it, 31-21. North Haven finally back on the field, and here is Tony Sagnella. He won't talk about the incident or what happened or what the result was, but he was able to talk with Mike Fornabio and I about just the just a mentally exhausting week that they had. Listen, they figured it out on Friday. They forfeited, and then they couldn't do anything for a weekend. They got to listen to everybody going, what's going on with you guys? What's happening? You know, what kind of program issues are you having? And then they didn't, no word on Monday. And then on Tuesday, finally, the superintendent was able to clear them. So here's Coach Sagnella, with some good comments after the game about what they went through.
How was it for you? Just the last week? I mean, trying.
Very stressful. Very stressful. But, you can take the pats on the back. You got to take the punches in the face. You know what I mean? And that's what you got to do. And that's it. It worked out the way I thought it was going to. It shook out the way I thought it would. But I think the delay and the downtime made it worse because nothing could be done until you're in school. And this came to light after school was out on Friday, and then Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday didn't complete it, so we had to finish it on Tuesday, but there wasn't any school, so we couldn't practice. So it was exhausting.
Biggest test, I guess, of your,
And it's a different experience. It really is. It's been in a lot of games over the years and never been in one like this because we've never had that happen.
So there you go, Pete. There's Tony Sagnella saying, if you're willing to take the pats on the back, you're also got to deal with the getting punched in the face. And they certainly got punched in the face. We don't know what happened with the situation there, but apparently it was good enough to be cleared by the school board. Even the school board president or chair, said they were very satisfied with how that went down. So North Haven back to the field. Hopefully we're all good there, and they were able to go and have a football season.
Yeah, it was a quick turnaround on something like that. It was a Friday to Tuesday. They were able to kind of put it to bed, I guess. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, give Sheehan credit. They hung with North Haven, who a lot of us liked heading into this season. Could have been a couple of things. North Haven, I don't think hit the field until Wednesday. But Sheehan was ready, and they played pretty well. So I think I take that away from the game a lot. How well Sheehan played in it.
Yeah, I thought Sheehan played pretty well. Paul Gorey played. He was a good-looking kid. He throws a nice ball. They just got wore down by North Haven. And North Haven was able to kind of overcome its mistakes just because they're good up front. They got some guys on defense, and even without Pandolfi and Mastriani, this Mastriani kid, man, he was great. So the future looks very bright for North Haven, regardless. Defending state champs, so really nice job. They go to Fitch this week as part of the huge Alliance games. So and away we go. That'll be interesting to see there. But let's jump in now, Pete, to go to the top 10 because there's so much going on. We kind of have to just pick and choose our battles here. So we're going to the top 10, which just dropped on this Monday afternoon. And at number 10, Pete, there they are, your boys from Windsor. Yes, finally our voters, again, a week late. This happened last year. A week late with jumping on the bandwagon of a team. Remember last year they voted Southington ahead of West Haven. And then the next week they voted West Haven number one because they're not paying attention. I just want to say this, voters, please pay attention. Please vote accordingly and pay attention to what's going on in the season. I know this is tough. You got to vote on a Sunday, but this is fun. This isn't shoveling ditches for a living. So, this is supposed to be fun. But anyway, so Windsor gets in there. They're playing Monday night. For all we know, they could lose and go into their New Canaan game this week with a loss. But who knows? That's a big game on Saturday, 2:00 at Dunning Field. That's number 10, Windsor. Number 9, Masuk. Still no word on what's going on with Steve Christie and Eric Giordano, the coaches there. They're on day 75, last I checked, of being out. They haven't coached a lick, but beat up on Stratford 50-12. They go to play Bloomfield this week. But I'll tell you this much. I know a lot of people in Monroe are a little frustrated by the process here, which is nobody knows what's going on there. But there is a police report that seems to exonerate them. There is the fact that it doesn't sound like there's a DCF investigation. So everyone's looking at the Board of Education at Masuk going, North Haven was able to figure this out in a weekend. What are you guys doing? So I don't really know. I mean, if something's wrong, they should come out and figure it out. Otherwise, let's get the coaches back, please. They got a huge one this week at home against Bloomfield. That's 9, Masuk. Number 8 is Shelton. Now, Shelton was 4 last week, Pete, after their big win over New Canaan. Huge Thursday night game. And you were there with Mike were there. Everybody seemed to go to this game. They were all fired up. 2 big programs. Shelton, as we talked last week, with a massive, just tough schedule. Cheshire coming off its win over Ridgefield. But what were we going to get from Cheshire against a team that, a lot of guys like myself included, maybe to win a state championship in Class L? And Pete, what happened up there at Cheshire?
Well, both teams came out hot. Cheshire went right down the field, scored. Shelton countered right back. And it looked like this was going to be a fast-paced, scoring game. And then all of a sudden, kind of came to a screeching halt in the second half of the first quarter. And then all the second quarter, just 2 teams throwing blows. A lot of penalties. Cheshire thought they were iffy. I don't really agree with that assessment. Some of them were pretty legit calls that the referees made. Then it came down, at the end. 14-14, Shelton's going in. There, I think it was 3rd and goal from outside the 10 after a sack. Kinnick throws a pass. It gets picked off, according to the referee. It happened so fast. And we didn't really notice it during the game. But then we got some text messages after to take a look at the film, and the ball hit the ground.
It was pretty blatant.
It was pretty blatant once you slow down the video and look. And Vernon was the player who made the interception. He made a great play. He read it perfectly. Just ball hit the ground. But it happened very fast. And though I didn't think anyone on the Shelton side argued like immediately. You know what I mean? Like the game just kind of kept going. Cheshire moved all the way down the field, tries to set up a field goal to win it. Matt Jeffrey's kicking because he's kicking off, he's punting, he's kicking field goals, he's returning punts.
Making halftime.
Yeah, the kick was more of a line drive than anything. Obviously went to overtime. Jeffrey scored. Cheshire defense held. I mean, it was a great game. It just, you left there, you're like, wow, what a performance by Cheshire. Obviously Jeffrey was great. Evan Russo had a bunch of plays in the backfield. He was one of the players to watch for Cheshire this year. And then you got home and you start looking at the film, and then you kind of see that interception, and it really, or not interception. Look, technically it's an interception. It's called an interception. It's not an interception. But it just kind of soured it a little bit because Shelton played so well. Watching Tinney and Jeffrey go at it was great. It just, you kind of hate to see the game kind of get swayed because of that. Now, look, Cheshire was stopped. They didn't score on that drive, right? The game went to overtime. Cheshire scored. Shelton had a chance. They didn't convert. So they had other opportunities. It was just really weird, like seeing that and being like, ooh, that kind of leaves a bad taste in my mouth. But I will say, great win for Cheshire. They're for real. They're really good from top to bottom. So is Shelton, obviously. And it was just a great SEC game. Just unfortunate for Shelton. They had 2 of those in a row.
Right. Well, here's the deal with Shelton. Look at Paulie Pick yelling at us, screaming bloody murder on social media. We love you, Paulie. But he's not wrong. I mean, but this is the problem. This is the thing. Look, when you kind of schedule like Shelton, and I even said it last week, Shelton's not going to win every game. They could be a great team, but they're not going to win every game. That's just not. That schedule's ridiculous. And they got Wethersfield this week, which I didn't think Wethersfield looked that great against Southington, so maybe they get a little bit of a reprieve there. But Shelton, just with that schedule, you're not winning all your games, and you're going to be close every single time against all these teams. They got to play West Haven, they got to play Prep, they got to play all these teams. It's just going to go. These things are, when you have two evenly matched teams, as this one clearly was. You're just going to have something's going to go somebody's way. I mean, even Cheshire had a few calls go against them, so you can't get too. I know it was a key moment in the game, but you can't get too worked up about this stuff. Luckily, what they've done here is, and I know I hate it, but now it's not a death knell to lose one or two games. Now it's like, now they give you a little bit of a reprieve, and Shelton knows their schedule is going to help them out in the long run, which is, that drives me nuts that they did that. But hey, in this case, it's good for them. But that's just tough. That's one of a few, I want to say iffy calls, Pete, but like few, could have gone either way type of calls. This one clearly was hit the ground. But there are a lot of those going on this week, and a lot of coaches pulling their hair out, on this kind of stuff. So, that's a tough call. But hey, let me just tell you about Matt Jeffrey, man. Just after the game, like pointing at the camera, and absolutely love him. And listen, they are for real, and he's great. And it looks like they got the team around him to back it up. And I absolutely love that. SEC is tremendous, and it's going to be a dogfight every single week with these guys.
Yeah. I would be remiss not to mention on Matt Jeffrey's overtime touchdown, my guy, Jeffrey Gonzalez, was right there in the middle, hand around Jeffrey's waist, pushing him forward, because he kind of disappeared in the scrum. And then all of a sudden, you just kind of see him pop out, and there's Jeffrey Gonzalez, his hands around his waist, getting him in the end zone. Matt Jeffrey claims he pulled him into the end zone, but I'm going to give credit to Jeffrey Gonzalez on that play.
They are number 8, Shelton. Cheshire is number 5. We'll get to that in a second. Newtown is number 7. They haven't lost to New Milford since 2001, and they are 2-0 now with a 30-7 victory. Farina's second win as Newtown coach. He's 2-0, so good for them. Number 6, Pete, is Ansonia. They got in a little bit of a dogfight with Seymour. That game was close, but they pulled away with a big night from Makai Ingram, 207 yards and 3 touchdowns. That is their 20th consecutive win over Seymour, including 2 playoff games. Their 20th consecutive win over Seymour since 2004. In fact, I think I was at the first game of that streak where I asked Jack Hunt if the season was over. They didn't beat Seymour because they lost him the year before. And Jack Hunt said, of course not, because they weren't going to make the playoffs that year. So I called that up. And then when they beat Seymour, Jack told the team, he goes, some reporter called me up and said the season's over unless we beat Seymour. Is the season over, guys? Yeah. They went nuts. And I was like, oh, man, that was Jack Hunt's last season as an Ansonia coach. Turn it over to Tom Brock. Has done a great job. Hasn't lost to Seymour yet. Tommy Brockett. Number 5 is Cheshire. We just talked about them. Number 4, West Haven continues to roll. They smoked Law 47-14. Kemp, 161 yards rushing on 11 carries. Nick Collins threw for 160 yards and 2 scores and almost ran for 100 yards himself. DeMarco Eddy with 92 yards receiving and a touchdown. They are at Reeling Ridgefield, 0-2 on Friday. That is West Haven up there now. They take over the Shelton spot, number 4. Number 3 is Maloney. Dante Kelly, Pete, your boy.
My boy.
Caught 8 catches, had 8 catches for 140 yards and 2 touchdowns. Pete, he's ridiculous so far, living up to his first-team register all-state billing. Maloney goes to, well, we'll tell you that in a second. Number 2 is Southington. I was at the game on Sunday, Pete. 5 turnovers combined, 3 Southington pickups, including one by Rashard Williams, who helped put the game away with this almost TD that I sat there and I had it nailed, man. If he had caught that pass, it would have been on both our highlight reels. I wish he would have caught it, but then he catches an 87-yarder catch and run. He put that game away, 26-0 over Reeling Wethersfield. They're 0-2. Cam Ridgey and the guys just couldn't get any offense together. They even got stopped late, even trying to break the shutout. But they're number 2, Southern. They have a first by Bill. And then finally, number 1, Greenwich. 28-14, though, Pete. Stanford, we thought was going to be good, but we didn't. We looked at their schedule, like it won't even show up how good Stanford might be. Well, Donnie Panapana and the guys have put in a great effort against Greenwich, number 1. They were in that game. Not only were they in that game, they were leading 14-7 in the second half before Greenwich put that game away in the fourth quarter with a couple touchdowns. But Yeeps. You know, maybe a wake-up call there for Greenwich. Gets 23 first-place votes. They go up to Falcon Field, Pete, to play Maloney in the big game of the – I mean, how close was Maloney from being number 2? 30-something points, a little less than 30 points. But number 3 hosting number 1 Greenwich in a great game this week. But there it is, the top 10, Pete. What do you think?
I cannot wait for Maloney Greenwich. I think this game is going to be good. The Greenwich-Stanford game is a head-scratcher for sure. Donnie does a great job. We've talked about him, I think, on every episode so far this season. But I'm getting that weird feeling that I got last year about Greenwich early in the year when they just would stop. They either would go up big, let teams back in the game like they did against Southington last year, or get a really slow start and then have to come back and pull away late. You know, this isn't the Greenwich team that was dominating opponents at the end of last season. And I am very intrigued. Maloney comes out fast. Yeah, I don't want to tip our picks here because we have a whole other show for that. But Maloney comes out fast. They try to hit you in the mouth early. And, you know, they're not Stanford. And it's nothing against Stanford, but Maloney can score with anyone. You cannot give them an inch or they're going to take advantage of it. And I am very intrigued by this Friday matchup with Greenwich. I think there could be a new number 1 team next week because if Greenwich plays like they did on Friday, they're not winning.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, they were they were sweating there. You know, if they're a solid win over Fairfield Prep, they're thinking, all right, maybe we're pretty good. But yeah, I mean, listen, Stanford I think is good. I think Stanford is excellent, and Donnie's done an amazing job there. He said it in our preview. He said we expect to compete in every game, and most of the time you go, you know, oh yeah, sure, dude. But to actually back up those words, you know, look out. Stanford, the last time they were actually relevant, I think it was 2011. The Black Knights went 7-2 and didn't make the state playoffs, but ironically, oh, by the way, their head coach was Brian Hochter and Reese Lane was the assistant, and they're both coaching at Greenwich now. So I think they beat New Canaan, or it was around that time, they beat New Canaan at Boyle Stadium. And I remember showing up to that game because it was like one of those things you saw it online. You're like, oh, geez, we got to get down there. And I think they beat New Canaan. That was a really good Stanford team, and since then they've kind of fallen off. But, hey, anytime one of the city schools shows up and gives one of the big suburban schools a little run for money, we love it. We love it here. And that's why, you know, you see Maloney, you can kind of say it's kind of like a, you know, kind of a city type of a school. Maloney is 2 towns, though. That's going to be fascinating. We saw Kevin Frederick at Cardinal Stadium last week or the week before. You know, you can bet his staff they are salivating over the performance Stanford put on. It might actually give Greenwich a little bit of a wake-up call. I think Coach Morello will give them that. But very interesting, like you said, very interesting game. Pete, you know, what else can we say about last week? You were at probably one of the biggest results of the week over at Saturday night while I'm at North Haven. You're down there just trying to take some photos. Fairfield Prep, you know, they're going to play Hand. Hand, you know, lose to Bunnell week 1. What happened?
So let's rewind. So I just went with my camera and my video camera. I was like, I'll take some photos. I'll get some video. You know, I didn't even bring my laptop because I was like, I'll just go home and like whatever happens in this game, I'll write it up. Boy, was I wrong, because that was a classic. I mean, that was an absolute instant classic game, pound for pound. Again, I'm like quoting what I said at the Cheshire Shelton game, but punch for punch. Prep was up 6. Hand came back, took the lead. Prep tie, came back, Hand again. Then Prep, then Hand. Like, it was just back and forth, back and forth. Hand never, ever, you know, to quote the Goonies, Hand never said die. And they fought. And look, there's just so many different guys on this field that just stood out. Obviously, Jack Shea from Hand had an amazing game under center. Owen Prescar caught 2 really nice touchdowns. If you look at the film, really nice touchdowns. And then flip to the other side. Finbar Malloy.
Yes, great play.
Is one of the best wide receivers in the state. I mean, he made some unbelievable catches. Came down, went to overtime, Hand scored to send it to overtime. And then Hand scores first, and another controversial play at the end of it. After Prep scores on the first play of their try in overtime, Prep goes for 2 in the win. Now, rewind a little bit. Prep had a chance to win the game, like a 26-yard field goal attempt. It went wide left, barely. I mean, I didn't even see it. Like, from where I was, I looked good, but obviously it's completely different. Everyone was pretty convinced it was a missed field goal, so that's not the controversy. But Prep goes to line up. Looks like they're going for 2. They take a timeout. They're going out. They're going for 2 in the win. I asked Coach Keith Helstern about it. He said it really didn't have anything to do with the missed field goal. Hand had gotten through and blocked an extra point earlier in the game, and then they got through again on the potential game-winning field goal attempt. So he was, didn't want to risk an extra point block, so he went for the win. John Morris got to the edge.
Yeah.
You and I broke it down. It looks like his knee was down early, but the problem is you can't see the damn lines on the field. And that's the hard part, is even referees are looking at, from multiple camera angles. We've seen multiple camera angles. From my view, and I thought I was shooting across the field, and it looked like I thought I got a pretty good view of it. His knee was down, then his elbow was down, but when the knee is down, the ball is not leaned forward. Like, it's not put across.
Yep.
But so from that angle, it looks like he's down. We don't have pylon cams. This isn't the NFL, so it makes it a little bit more difficult. But he's down. He's ruled down. Hand storms on the field. Their fans storm on the field. Eric Becker's high-fiving everybody like he's running for mayor of Madison. He's high-fiving all the fans. I mean, he was in his element. It was a wild game. Just an absolute wild game. Great for Hand, but it puts a lot on Fairfield Prep now. We saw them. They started 1-3 last year. They were able to rally and get to the finals. I could see that happening again. They're starting a lot of sophomores. Like Keith Helstern said, they're learning on the job. And but he even said, he goes, I don't want to be 1-3 again. He goes, that was dark. He goes, so they're looking to, they got Darien this weekend.
Yeah.
That's a must win for them, but great for Hand. I mean, what a game. Eric Becker, him and his coaching staff, a great coaching performance. And let me just tell you this quickly about they have the 2 quarterbacks. So it's Jack Shea and Paul Calandrelli. Paul took the majority of the snaps week 1 against Bunnell. That was more of the offense that they were going to run, more run heavy. This week they needed to throw a little bit more. Jack kind of stepped in, and I asked Jack, I was like, were you playing with like maybe a little, chip on your shoulder, trying to prove, that you could be the guy? And like, it was none of that. They are just in full support of each other. And he's like, it was just my turn. Like, Paul's great. Paul he had 5 tackles on defense, was playing kickoff and kick return. He's doing his thing, but they work really well together. So it's interesting to see. Though I am still a believer in if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have none. But that's just me.
Yeah. Number one, that was a tough call there. Like you said, they don't have pylon cams. We don't have we're looking at fuzzy videos of different angles of it. When I saw the one that Hand actually posted, I thought he was in. I'm like, oh my God, he's in. Then I look at your angle and I'm like, it's a little bit because you can actually see the other side of his hand. You can actually see where it goes. You can see his, it was really, it's a bang thing. You got to make a call there. And, it took a little bit. You're on pins and needles because even the reps didn't even make the call right away. I mean, they had to confer quick before they were like, all right, no good. But that's a tough situation. That spot, especially, but the field thing just drives you nuts. I know Fairfield Prep has nothing to do with it. We've talked about this. It's a Fairfield University thing, but can we get some line on the field? Get some sort of wash off, something that you can put on a Friday night, and then by springtime, it's over. It's gone. Can we do that? Something. There's got to be something you could do because it's dangerous. It's and not just dangerous for safety, but it's also dangerous because you may start missing calls in that field. You're screwing things up. And again, I know Fairfield Prep has nothing to do with it, but Fairfield U's got to figure this out.
I
play that. I mean, they want to. I don't even think they want to have playoff games there because these teams are like, well, what if something goes against us and we're trying to win a state championship? And and the refs can't see the field. That's not fair. And I agree.
Yeah, well, there was a play where I thought Finbar made an unbelievable catch. I thought he was in the end zone. He like pointed at me, and I was like, "This is going to be a sick photo." And so I'm like walking back for like the kickoff, and even the PA announcer was like, "Oh, that was not a touchdown. First and goal from the 1." And I had to run back, and I screamed out loud. I was like, "I hate this field." Yeah. And standing right next to me was a Fairfield Prep AD. So I turned around. I was like, "My bad, Tom. Like, I know you guys have nothing to do with it." Like, I was like, "I'm just pissed." And then he goes, "No, you can talk to this guy." And it was the head of Fairfield U's like fields and stuff. And I was like, "Look, I know you're just doing your job, but this stinks."
No, it does. It does, and it hurts. Fairfield Prep's the one got to play on. Yeah. And maybe they just being used to it, they're okay. They have a sense of where things are. But like, it might hurt them more than it hurts anybody else because they got to play on the thing, half the season. So, that's tough. It's a tough call. Again, they have nothing to do with it. So, send your letters to CIAC and Fairfield U or something. Just be like, look, how do we play? Something.
I mean, they could just build their own field.
I suppose. I mean, there's certainly Barlow Field. Get nice stands there. What do you think?
Yeah. It's possible.
Yeah. Anyway, maybe in the future, but that wasn't the only game that had a tough call in it. Let's go back to, what was it, Friday afternoon. Yeah, Darien just like North Haven, didn't play week 1. They found themselves in a dogfight with McMahon. We had another team we thought, had a couple backs returning. We thought that they might. Last year, there was some thought that McMahon might be good. They were okay. But this year now, they had a 14-7 halftime lead at Darien on a couple of Eamon Boyle TD pass. But Darien ties it in the second half on a short TD one in the third quarter. And then with time running down, went on a 17-play, 92-yard drive. Facing 4th and 18, Ben Rolap finds Connor Lane in the back of the end zone. And does he get in? Just tippy toes right there. They call it a touchdown. Darien escapes 21-14 to get out of there. Give Andy Grant his first win as coach. But I had West Haven coaches coming up to me over at North Haven saying, like, I don't think that was in. We zoomed in on this. Dave Stewart, who was there, zoomed in on it. He's not shooting photos, but, it's hard to really tell there. But the foot comes down out of bounds. I mean, I know you need to get your tippy toes in there, but maybe a blade of, like, synthetic grass. Who knows?
So I think the rule is if you, like, tiptoe down, then it counts. But if the full foot comes down, so if, like, pretend this is the field. If you, like, tap, then it counts. But if you hit and then fall fully out, then it's out of bounds.
That's the case.
The video angles that we saw, you can't really tell. It's tough. And, you kind of feel bad for McMahon in that scenario because they played a great game. I mean, we knew they were going to be good. They were going to be competitive. I watched some of that game. It was hard for them to get going on offense, but when they did, they made plays. This guy we got to talk about for them, Jermel Bynum. He's a baller. He's DB, wide receiver. He's really good. He made a nice jump ball catch for McMahon's first touchdown, out-jumped 2 Darien defenders to come down with it. It was such a nice play that Dave Stewart, our colleague who was shooting photos at the time, I'm watching it, and Dave's puts his camera down a little bit to watch the play in front of him. It was a great play. McMahon, you hate, I don't know, you kind of hate to see a game end on that. I mean, it's a great catch by Connor Lane. Right? I mean, the play counted, so it's a catch, it's a touchdown. It's a great play by Connor Lane. I just wish it was more, if anyone's going to have pylon cans, it's going to be Darien.
Oh my God. Absolutely. I mean, they had everything else, right? That's it. Yeah. Like I said, that's a tough. They play host to Manchester McMahon, but look out. There's another one, just like Stanford. Who's Stanford playing this week anyway? McMahon plays Manchester this week, and Stanford plays at Simsbury. 2 winnable games for those programs. Stanford obviously winning their first game, and to go 2-1 to start, that would be great for them. McMahon, obviously, they won week 1, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they won week 1, a chance to go themselves 2-1, which would be great for Jeff's team. Good for him. And then obviously Donnie's done a great job so far. So Pete, with the second big round of Alliance matchups coming up this week, let's take a look at the Alliance scoreboard after week 2. Only 2 games last week. Alliance branded. Hamden goes to NFA and beats them at 41-14. The Dragons, Tommy Dyer's Dragons, 2-0. And then the one I was a little surprised at. Don Bassey had a great game for Notre Dame West Haven, 35-14 over Killingly. Killingly now, Pete, 0-2. The SEC going 2-0 against the ECC. And you look at the standings. That drops the ECC under 500, 7-8 now, then boosts the SEC over 500. They are now 8-7 overall. Not SWC obviously 9-2, FCAC 8-8. But we talked about them last week. I'm still laughing about Pete's comments on the FCAC. The CTC 2-4, the CCC looking to improve on a 1-6 record. But there is your Alliance standings, Pete. And we mentioned some of the big ones, but what are some other interesting games here as the Alliance goes week 2 and week 3?
Obviously, yeah, we mentioned Greenwich Maloney. That's a great one. Bloomfield Masuk was another one that we talked about. One that really stands out to me that's really interesting is Newtown Trumbull.
Yes, it was just
Newtown 2-0, great start for Dan Farina. Trumbull sitting here scratching our heads, wondering what the heck is going on there. I mean, they lost to a good Hamden team and really struggled against Danbury. It was a good program. They were able to scratch out a 28-20 win. But this is a Trumbull team that had some pretty high aspirations heading into this season. Credit to Danbury for playing a great game, but Trumbull, what's going on? What is going on at McDougall Stadium, McDougall Field? What's going on, guys?
Oh.
So that's that. I think that might be a make or break game for Trumbull this year, because if they go 1-2, they still have to play the majority of their FCX schedule, which is not super easy. They'll have Ridgefield, who's pretty banged up, then Ward, who's young, Greenwich, Stanford. Stanford's not going down. Stanford's not backing down against anyone. So that one's not that's not an easy one.
That looks very tough.
Yeah, Staples. We know how that's gone the last 2 years for Trumbull. Then West Hill, then St. Joe's. That's not a cakewalk. So, this is a must win for Trumbull.
I want to say must win, but it's close. In 6 division.
Look at the rest of that schedule. I don't know if 4 losses get you into the playoffs in Double L.
Yeah, St. Joe. Yeah, I agree with you. That's a very fascinating game. Newtown's looking pretty good there. Another big one was, this isn't a big game per se, but how about Guilford? Ryan White takes over at head coach, and Caden Hillier comes over from Hampton Hall and just has been lighting it up. The Grizzlies 2-0 right now, and he's been a big part of that. So that's been really interesting to see Guilford playing really well. Start under Brian White. Another game. Obviously, Southington Staples. Southington didn't blow my doors off against Wethersfield. That Wethersfield defense did a nice job. I know it's a Sunday, that's tough, but Staples coming to Southington. I liked how Staples responded last week with a pretty big, easy win over Ridgefield. Ridgefield's kind of really banged up, but that was a good bounce back game for Staples to get their confidence back. Now they go up to Southington. That's not an easy trip, but that's no gimme for Southington either. That's a tough one. And then another one, obviously, Masuk Bloomfield. To me is just fascinating. You have the Kerr brothers, you have Darien Foster, and Champagne on the other side, the Walkers, and Masuk still without their coaches as far as we know. So that game is fascinating on Friday night. Any other ones? Obviously Windsor New Canaan.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. The Windsor New Canaan game, they've met 4 times since 2011. All 4 have come in the playoffs, and New Canaan has won 3 of them. But I really like the Windsor. I really like Windsor this year, and I'm a little down on New Canaan. Cool, they went out and beat Fairfield Ward like they should. So I am really waiting. I'm interested to see how New Canaan's going to look against a second strong opponent this year. But I think Windsor just has athletes everywhere, and Fleet does such a great job. I'm that one. I plan on being at on Saturday, and then another one is Prep Darien.
Yeah, mm-hmm.
Prep is staring 0-3 in the face for the first time since 2009, and that was the year they went 0-10.
Oh my God, that was the Billy Pinto team. The 1 year that Billy Pinto took over for Rich Magnan, and they went 0-4, and Billy was shown the door very quickly. He was their defensive coordinator. He was on a lot of great prep teams, from the early 2000s. Rich Magnan's teams were great, and Billy had 1 year, and then they all went in a whole new direction. They brought Sheehan, and away we went. They went to the state final a few years later, so the whole new regime kind of was swept away, and that was that year. And I can't believe that they're looking at that. But listen, again, a lot of this has to do with schedules. Their schedule's just tough, and somebody who's good, which Fairfield Prep is good, is going
they're very good.
0-something, is going to. Yeah. That's the way these this is great with the schedules if the schedules were all the same, but they're not. So that's a little unfair. You give Prep that schedule, and then somebody else is going to get in over them. Probably doesn't deserve it, because they didn't have that schedule. So that's the problem with this whole system here. Let's get the schedules equity. I'm going to bang that drum until we do it right. But
on the other side of that game is Darien. They're 2-0. They're 2-0 overall, 1-0 on the field. But that was a squeaker against Brian McMahon. Again, not tipping picks, but Darien still has a lot to prove. I know a lot of people are drinking the Blue Wave Kool-Aid. I am not yet. I watched some of that game on DAF, which does a great job of streaming their games. They didn't really look super impressive. So here's your test. If Darien goes to 3-0, I'll buy a bunch of blue Gatorade and I'll chug it on this show.
Ooh, really? All right.
Yeah.
All right. Blue Gatorade. Okay.
Well, the Blue Wave, Blue Gatorade, Kool-Aid. I don't want to make Kool-Aid, but I just think this is the big test for Darien. It was a nail biter against McMahon, and Prep is really good, and they're getting better. They're learning. Again, Finbar Malloy is one of the best wide receivers in the state. If you have not gone and watched him play, go watch him play. Every catch he makes is a highlight play. I mean, he had the catch against Greenwich in the back of the end zone. Like, he's a highlight machine. He is an absolute stud. So I cannot wait to watch what he continues to do this season.
Another big Friday Night Alliance game is Bunnell, 2-0 again, facing Berlin, which went to last year's state final in Class M. It's Bunnell's home opener. And after they beat Hand, everyone kind of looked at that game. Oh, geez, 28-20. And that game, let's remember now, I didn't even find this out until later. Bunnell was actually up 20-0 on Hand before Hand had to come back and try and pull that game out. But Bunnell won that game, and now they come back and they win again, and now they play a pretty big alliance game against Berlin that needs to get going here. So let's bring in our first guest of the season, Bunnell coach Ty Jenkins. Joining us on the show is the fifth-year head coach of those Bunnell Bulldogs. It's Ty Jenkins. What's up, Coach? Hey, so I'm looking at the standings the other night. Not the standings. I'm looking at the results the other night. We see Fairfield Prep loses. We look at Hand, and we look at Bunnell from week 1, and we're like, maybe Bunnell has a good case for number 2 ranked team in the state. Coach, your thoughts on that?
I think, we're playing each week. We're playing going 1-0 each week. Hand was the first one. New Fairfield was the second one. Once every day we beat them, we're their biggest fans, and I want Daniel Hand to win the rest of their games. I want New Fairfield to win the rest of their games.
Come on. You saw that result. You must have been like, hey, we might not be bad this year. I mean, is that right?
Absolutely. We were excited. We were excited because I think it validated what we do and what we've been doing, and our motto is brick by brick, and I think that showed the quality of win we had week 1.
How you were there on Saturday. I saw you there on Saturday. How was it? You guys were sitting on the Hand sideline, so did you get any hate when you guys rolled in? Because you guys were repping Bunnell. You were not trying to hide it.
Yeah, we definitely did. The AD actually called me out and said, we already saw you once. And I said, hey, I'm here as a fan. And I cheered them on. I gave them my 2 cents from from the stands, and I was proud of them. Eric Becker's a great coach, man, and I was happy for him, but more happy for us to get us up in the Double M rankings.
What was the idea to go to Fairfield Prep? Hey guys, Hand, the team we beat, we were up 20-0 on them week 1 before they came back and made that a game, but you guys pulled it out. Was the thought like, hey, let's see how they do against Fairfield Prep and maybe we can kind of judge ourselves? Is that about right? Or
it was. We wanted to really see where we stood. We knew Fairfield Prep was a really good team. We know what they are, every year, how good they are. So I just wanted to go just be a little nosy and see, can we compete with these teams that we believe here that we can compete with? But we wanted to have some proof in the pudding.
Yeah, you must be going into practice day. Like, all right, now we know we might got something here. I mean, you beat New Fairfield, a very good team. They lost their quarterback, but that's a good team you beat there week 2. And now you go face a team that was in the final last year at Berlin. I got to see them against Wilton. That's a tough matchup for them. This might be a little bit more yours and their speed a bit, but that's another big tough matchup. And looking at your schedule last year, Coach, you went 6-4 again, right? You guys, 2 winning seasons, not bad, but you must look back at that schedule and be like, man, we were in every single one of those playoff games. I think the combined final score out of all those playoff games combined was 30 points. If you look at that, you were a couple, one of the pulling those games out to actually go into the state playoffs last year, huh?
Yeah, we felt really good. We felt good about the team we had. I think we had the best running back in the state, if you ask me.
Yeah.
That O-line was really good. We had to send a lot of kids from playing in the college level from that team. And we felt had we put one of those games, Masuk, which we were up, Notre Dame, New Milford, or Newtown, just one of those games we would have got in, and we thought we would have made a nice deep run. And that's what's really fueling us this year. And this team's rally is to be the 6th team in school history to make the playoffs. And we really want to do that.
Yeah, you talk about you lost Trovarelli last year, but you guys got a lot of dudes back. Tell me about like some of the guys who've really kind of like been the engine to get you off to this great start.
Oh, absolutely, and we have a bunch. And the good thing about them, they're all underclassmen. My 2 top receivers, Jordan Pierce and JT Turner, are unreal. Those 2 guys can straight up ball. They started as sophomores, and they led our teams in receptions last year, and they're back as juniors, going both ways for us this year. And then we have 2 running backs. So for the price of 1 last year, we got 2. We have Alberto Torres, who's 5'5", 230 pounds, low to the ground, and will run somebody over. And then we have our lightning, which is KK Smalls, who's been taking, the deep shots for us to break out the big runs. And, the good thing is now one's always fresh. And so it faces a challenge for our opponents, but those guys have put in the work. The biggest thing we've done is the investment into the weight room. This year was the first year, I believe, in school history, we won the SWC lifting competition. And I think that was the point where we said, we're going to take that next step.
Yeah, your linemen are all back, basically, for the most part. I mean, you got a lot of guys. What's been the biggest strength so far? Defense has been pretty good too.
Yeah, defense was good. I mean, we had 3 shutouts last year. I averaged only 14 points a game given up. This year, these guys are playing lights out. We've really invested on the defensive side of being solid against the run, and that's one of our strengths. But really, the truth is that this team is the best team that I've had together thus far, that believe in it. They understand what our motto, brick by brick. They understand what we're really trying to do, and they want it. And that's the big difference.
Coach, looking at your schedule, again, it wasn't an easy start. Hand, who, beat Bunnell when they were in the playoffs last time. New Fairfield, like you said earlier, they've been to the playoffs 3 straight years. Now you got Berlin, who went to the finals. And then, not to look a little bit too far ahead, then you got Masuk waiting on the other end of that. How important is this 4-game swing to start the year for your program to kind of set the tone of what's going to happen the rest of the way? Because after Masuk, Bethel, then you got New Milford, then Notre Dame, Fairfield, Newtown. I mean, people might sleep on and then, you throw the Thanksgiving game in there, which is always kind of crazy. People kind of look down on the SWC. Oh, a lot of smaller schools, but you look at that schedule, that could be like 6 or 7 playoff teams on it. Like, that's not a, walk in the park.
No, not at all. We knew that the first 4 was going to be tough. I told them we're either going to be champs or chumps by week 4. And right now we're on the winning side of that, which is really good. But we prepared for this. So all summer long, we wanted to go against the best, right? We scrimmaged West Haven, we scrimmaged Staples. We went and make sure that any team that we played was going to be of that caliber that we were going to see for the first 4 weeks, which is why I think we're playing at such a high level right now, because they're used to that speed right now. And all the teams that we work with over the summer, I believe iron sharpens iron. And when we had to go out and find those good teams to go against.
Yeah, that schedule though. I mean, when you looked at that, be honest. When you looked at that, you must have been like, "What did I got to do to play Hand?" Bunnell has never beaten Hand. I can't remember the last time they beat Hand.
1984.
Yeah, what was it? 94?
1984. Yeah,
84. Jeez. But the times I saw them in the playoffs. They got their clocks cleaned, and so that's a big milestone for you guys. But again, that schedule, like, who put that together? Oh my goodness!
Yeah, the Alliance. We'd gone. My 3 seasons prior have been 3-7, 6-4, 6-4, and someone down the Alliance thought that we deserved Daniel Hand in Berlin. And you know what? I put out a tweet when we got that. If we want to be the best, we have to beat the best. And so we weren't going to complain about it. We were not going to try to get it changed. We took it and we're making through it. And so hopefully this week we can go ahead and go against a quality opponent who played in the state championship last year and, really get us in the position to make this Class M playoff, which I believe is one of the best playoff classes this year.
Ty, you came over from, New London. First of all, just quick on some of the great coaches you guys had there. You had Larson for your last few years, and then you had the great Jack Cochran. So you've been on a championship team winner. You've been on a championship team loser. You take all that stuff, and how much do you think that has prepared you to take this job and take this challenge at Bunnell?
Yeah, I actually, again, I told you before, when I took this job, I was 24 years old, right? Young coach. They took a shot on me. My first year, we were not very good. And I took what I learned from Jack and from Jeff and Juan Roman, for that matter, and really put in what they built in New London, because it's very similar demographically. And so I did everything I could. I moved to Stratford my second year. I live walking distance to the school. I'm here constantly. You can't go to any event in Stratford without seeing me. And I wanted to be embedded in this community. Jack Cochran was in every community he coached in. He was at every basketball game, every town council meeting, because he cared. And I took that on, and it's made a huge impact. I know my families. I know these kids. I know what they have in their refrigerators. I know what their parents do for livings. And that was the step that really got me into this community. So I learned that from New London for sure.
And there's always talent there in Stratford, as you know. I mean, you look around and they might not be playing in Stratford, but there's talent there constantly. It's a big time football town. So you come in and, you also you're chasing ghosts there at Stratford. I mean, everybody, even the guy before you, Sean McMahon, chasing ghosts, Craig Bruno, who's now at Amity, won back-to-back state championships. That's, Bunnell would love to get back to that level because there are a lot of the alumni and there's so many great teams from then. How hard is that to do to kind of try and get that program back to that level? Because I know you guys know you can do it and get there.
Absolutely. It's hard. And you know what? We've always had quality coaches here. Craig, it was a great coach here. He is where we want to be. But Sean went to the playoffs, right? He made that. He was team 4 and 5, right? And he did that. And he was incredible. He still works in the building and is a huge supporter of our program. And so I was lucky enough to have him there. To show me kind of what he did and help me out. And you know what? We are trending back in that direction. And you know what? That was a long time ago, but I think we're starting to swing in that direction. And, to play against some greats, I got to play against Bruno, which was awesome. Some of these guys who I grew up watching, coaches, you're starting to play, and it's kind of surreal, especially when you end up on the winning side of them.
Coach, you mentioned Michael Trovarelli, who was a great two-way player last year, All-State. Were you concerned, kind of heading into this year of trying to fill that void? Because it's a big void. I mean, Mike was one of the better players in the state last year, and every team, no matter who, is going to miss a player like that.
Yeah, I was afraid that we were going to have a void, and a void that nobody could fill. And so what I told our kids were that, hey, Michael Trovarelli's not coming back here. I don't need you to be Michael Trovarelli. I don't need another Michael Trovarelli. I need us to just be who we are. And then the big challenge went to my offensive line. Was it Michael Trovarelli, or did you play a part in that? And those guys, this group, this offensive line, have been together for almost 3 years now. Our left tackle has started since he was 13 years old, walked in as a freshman and started. I think he's one of the better offensive linemen in the state as a junior right now. and we're doing that. And so they took that challenge, and you know what? We haven't had much trouble running the ball thus far, and a lot of that is on the backs of them.
Coach, tell me about Berlin. What's the challenge this week?
Berlin, the number one challenge is their coaching staff, right? They are veteran coaching staff. Max DiLorenzo, who we played in the All-Star game together. We both graduated the same year in high school. So starting to see some of these guys that we played with, you know, he's going to be a head coach soon. I mean, he's very good. They're very talented down there. And so making sure we're prepared with a program who's been there before. And so that's the number one. But their quarterback is an elite quarterback. I think he's returner. He's doing some really good things. Number 20 out there is a real player, right? Like, I don't know his name, but I do know that he can play, and anyone who plays them definitely has to account for them. So, we have to play sound football. The one benefit we have is that we're going to play at home. We haven't played at home. We've taken 2 long road trips. So,
wow.
Mastroni Field will be rocking on Friday night, and if we play sound football.
That's right. You guys beat Hand at Surf Club. Which I mean, that's a big deal. It's a big deal. Listen, you guys have done an amazing job so far. I don't think you guys are. Where are they on the rankings, Pete? Where do you got Bunnell? Where are they getting any love? What's the story here?
They're getting, so the poll just dropped a couple of minutes before this interview, and Bunnell is getting some love. They are below Hand in the rankings, which I don't get. I'm sorry, Coach. I voted for you guys in my top 15 above Hand, but you 27 points this week.
Okay. We weren't in the media poll at all last week, so we'll take that.
I mean, I voted for you in my top 15. I didn't vote Hand. I don't
know.
Neither did I. I don't know where our voters are. What Bunnell's doing. No, they beat Hand. They beat Hand better than Hand beat Prep. I mean, so let's, and then you look at it. I love the week 3 when you finally get a chance to like match up I just love it. And so, hey, you could have been. I would have been fine with Bunnell number 2 in somebody's rankings.
You know what? We're okay being the underdog. We have some things we always say. Hungry dogs run faster. And you know what? It's okay. We're just going to go 1-0 each week, and that's going to be our goal. And at the end, we'll let it fall where it may. But we try to stay out of the rankings as much as possible in terms of what we think about, and just kind of stay focused and do our job.
I tell you what, Coach, you beat Berlin, and then you come back and beat Masuk. I think you can make a great case for a top 10 team for sure. I won't even let you respond. You can just kind of like hang back and simmer in that one for a little bit. But all right, Coach, listen, we appreciate it. Great job. Great start. I mean, right now you guys are off to an amazing start, and I foresee a playoff berth in your future. I mean, not to jinx it or anything, but I am confident in their first 2 games. So as long as everyone stays healthy, everyone's good. I think you guys will be in great shape. You're doing a great job over there. So thanks for joining us a little bit here.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you guys for having me. We appreciate it. We appreciate all the love and what you guys do. You guys make high school football in Connecticut fun. And you know what? Our hashtag is probably better than Texas hashtag. So I love it. It's great to be a person who played sports, played football in Connecticut, to see how it has grown. I mean, it's awesome. These kids are very lucky to have you guys. You guys are household names, man, and it's awesome. So I'm glad the Bulldogs got a little bit of love today, and we can have a little shout out.
Thanks for jumping on with us, Coach, and
Coach.
We'll see you very soon.
Anytime.
Thanks, Coach. I do have one question before we jump off, Coach.
All right.
What does Southern have to do to beat UNH? Because we just lost for the 15th straight time.
Oh, I know. It's rough. First thing I would say is they need to recruit some kids from Bunnell. Get some Bunnell guys on that roster, and I think we could help a little bit. But I think the school needs to give a little bit more support. I think we got to get our scholarship numbers up. We got to be able to compete with programs that are given the full 36 scholarships that Division II gets. And until we get that, we're not going to be able to compete at that level. But it's not the coaching staff. Coach Tom Godek's doing the best he can do. John Weiss, who was roomed with me and the Thomas twins, is the offensive coordinator now. I know the type of time he puts in, and disappointing is yes, because we should be beating them, but they were up 7-0. I was there.
They were. I was watching online.
We got to get it done though. We got to get it done, and it's coming. But they played ranked Shepherd week 1, they lose. They played ranked Assumption, they lose, and then they have New Haven. It's murderous go for them, just like it's for us. So you got to make it through it.
I'm sorry, none of you guys can have a team like your team like Syracuse, 3-0, beating Purdue up. Straight doing the. Did you see those fakes with the little fakes? he did. Oh, to get first downs, they got a touchdown. Just brilliant. Every coach should be doing that. QB thing sold it great. So go Orange. All right, Coach. We appreciate it.
Anytime, guys.
Coach.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So Pete, brick by brick, Ty Jenkins fired up. Bunnell's looking pretty good right now. I don't know about number 2. I know I kind of like rag him a little bit, but hey, if they can beat Hand like that, and Prep has trouble in Hand, maybe Bunnell's for real.
Yeah, I don't think there was a happier person in that stadium than Ty on Saturday night. He was sitting there waiting for the Hand team to come off to talk to Coach Becker. Big smile on his face. And if you ever meet Ty, Ty's always smiling. But this was the biggest smile I've ever seen on his face, where he was like, all right, like, we're legit. Like, we can play. And it's exciting to see. Ty's, I've known Ty for a very long time. We go back to college. And, he's put a lot of work into that program. And they always seem to be on the outside looking in. And here they are with a really good chance to get to the playoffs. And it's kind of exciting.
Yeah, no question. They were out knocking on the door a little bit last year. They lost 4 playoff teams against 4 playoff games. They lost 4 games against playoff teams by a combined 30 points. So you'd think they lose their running back. You don't know what's going to happen with them, but they've not a bad job at all. So, I do like Pete to see a lot of when teams feel like they're involved. You don't lose a lot of games. You feel like you're involved. You start seeing their coaches scouting teams. I saw West Haven showing up over at North Haven Sheehan. Now they're out there scouting because they're right in the thick of things. You like to see that kind of stuff. Just to kind of wrap things up a little bit here, obviously this was the first weekend of at least half the prep schools got going this week, and obviously there's a New game as far as New England is concerned over at Samosa Field in Cheshire. That's 2 games, big games in Cheshire over the span of 24 hours. Cheshire Academy kicked off the season with this massive 20-14 victory over defending overall New England champion Brunswick. The big question everyone had for me was, how many FBS guys do you think, eventual FBS guys, do you think were on this field? And I could count at least 6 or 7 just off the top of my head, but there's probably more out there. Lots of Connecticut guys with big-time offers. On the Brunswick side, you had Jaden LaFont. I always get this kid's name wrong. Jaden LaFontaine, who's out of Stratford, old lineman going to Kentucky. You had Maggie Augustine of Greenwich. He's got his pick of the litter as far as like FBS schools, Ohio State, Notre Dame, you name it. And then you have Ethan Long, the former from Milford, former St. Joe player. He's already got a bunch of offers. He's a junior DB. And then on the other side, you had Dante Reno's from Mass, but he's the son of the Yale coach, Tony Reno. He's going to South Carolina. You had his center, Nico Francavilla, who came over with him from Loomis. He's going to UMiami. You have Luke Reynolds, a big tight end, 6'4", 220, going to Penn State. And then you have Bridgeport's Elijah Newby, great-looking player, Pete. He started at Bullard Havens. Then he went to St. Joseph's, but he didn't get to play one official game there. He instead played for the Bad Sons. If you remember the COVID team, the independent COVID team, the Bad Sons football. He played for them, and then he ended up at Cheshire Academy. He's great. He's going to Southern California. I mean, not USC South Carolina, but USC Southern California. And I think one of the assistant coaches were there to watch him. Great 6'4" kid, linebacker, made some amazing plays. And then finally you had Tariq Mallory, whose brother, Tehran, plays for Norfolk State. And Tariq Mallory, in his first game since transferring from West Haven, catches 2 great long touchdown passes from Dante Reno to help build Cheshire Academy a 20-14 lead. And, a 20-0 lead. And then second half, Brunswick actually chipped away a little bit with Bryce Davis running the ball. Elijah Cromartie had a rough day, had a pickoff, fumbled the ball once. He was a former Windsor quarterback, and a really tough game between the two. Just so many athletes on the field. Brunswick had the ball in their end with about 2 minutes and change left, but there's your guy, Elijah Newby, with the strip, the fumble. They pull out of there, just a massive win. It was a coming-out party for Cheshire Academy, and especially Tariq Mallory. And here he is talking about getting the chemistry together to get this game going.
Fall camp wasn't easy. I'll tell you now. Fall camp wasn't easy. We came a long way from on and off the field, talking to each other, late nights, going over plays, calls. We came a long way, but I feel like we're all putting it together, putting all the pieces to the puzzle together.
What was it like catching those two big touchdown passes? You look fired up.
I really didn't. I didn't even notice I caught them too till I came back to the sideline, everybody hit my head. I'm like, oh, I keep scoring. I was feeling it. I was in the zone. I was just locked in.
So there you go, 20-14. The rest of the prep school, you have all the Avon All Farms, all those teams. They start this week, but really nice way to start the prep school season. And just a couple quick last minute notes here. Our condolences and our prayers to the family of Joe Canzanella, who the longtime New Haven AD, who was the president of the Connecticut High School Coaches Association, took over for Fontana. Just last week. He died suddenly at age 71, right after he watched his old school, Wilbur Cross, open its new field. And Joe had a lot to do with all the facilities you see down there at New Haven. He was involved in, refurbishing Bowen Field. He was involved in, putting the New Haven Athletic Center together, Floyd Little Athletics Center together. And, as an administrator, no one's all going to love you. He certainly had his critics over the years, and some of the decisions might have rankled some, but he was a guy who got things done. I mean, certainly he had an outsized influence on the way high school sports is run in Connecticut. So you talk about guys with coaching trees. He has an athletic director tree, Pete. Let's start out. Jake Jarvis at Guilford, Tom Dyer at Hamden, Anthony Verderame at East Haven, and then obviously his successor, Eric Pachowski, who's done a great job at continuing on the building New Haven athletics up. And listen, you talk about how tough some of the city schools have it, but New Haven is still one of the premier outfits. Maybe the football teams haven't been doing great, but the basketball teams are great. And a lot of that has to do with Joe Canzanella. So just a great loss there. I know a lot of the guys at CIC loved him, and he was just starting at the Connecticut High School Coaches Association. So our thought, I didn't really know Joe that well. I don't think he really knew who I was, or if he did, he certainly didn't let it on. But over the years, he's been great for New Haven, and he's certainly going to be a loss, gone too soon type of thing.
After hearing about his death, did some reading up, and it's pretty incredible. The Floyd Little Center, he was a big part of that, and that is one of the premier spots in the entire state for track and field for basketball. I mean, it's one of the most beautiful facilities we have in this state, and it hosts a whole bunch of championship games and memories that are made by high school athletes around the state in that venue. And, it is sad, whenever you lose someone with that great of an impact on high school sports, for us in our field and stuff like that, to lose someone like that is, it's not easy. It's tough.
Yeah. He certainly was bringing the Connecticut High School Coaches Association kind of more into a modern, era, because Fontana was old school, and you can see they're a lot more active on social media. They're a lot more active in getting their all-state teams out, which is something we had to beg Fontana. God rest his soul. But anyway, so our condolences out to his family and everyone who had been influenced by him over the years. We're deeply, truly sorry. Speaking of which, another awful thing I heard over the weekend that I didn't even know about, but I learned that the son of Kyle McIntosh, the great Cheshire back, who's still the all-time leading rusher there, helped them to win a few state championships, kick off that great run. His son, Kellen, 16-year-old, died just in a freak accident during move-in day up at UConn. Actually, he hung out. They were trying to move in somebody, and he got pinned by a vehicle that rolled back and pinned him up against the building, and he hung on and fought for a week. Kellen did, and unfortunately, he succumbed to his injuries September 3rd, and just what an absolute awful thing to lose somebody so young. Kyle has been very active in the community still. He's a big part of Malta Camp, and obviously, he's just one of the great all-time players. I got to know Kyle a little bit at Syracuse. We both went there at the same time, and I didn't really know him as well then. I did I did cover him, but I got to know him much later, and there's just no better guy than Kyle McIntosh, and what he's meant to football in Connecticut and broader, and just deepest sympathies to him and his family, and that is just an awful thing. So we love you, Kyle, and we just wish nothing for the best for your family going forward. So I guess that's we pull that a podcast.
Yeah, I think so. I think we hit on it. There was a lot to touch on, and I think we did a pretty good job at it.
We forgot something, and I'm sure, I'll just quick shout out Pomperog beating Brookfield 20-12. Hey, Pomperog's now, 3-0 now?
2-0. 2-0.
They're 2-0 now. So that's right, 2-0. I don't even know what week it is, but hey, that was a big game for somebody, and Pomp Rock coming up with a big win there for Tony Pereira and the guys, so good for them. There's so many other teams we'll get to. There's a lot going on this week. Lions games, got Pick 'em podcast coming up, so stay with us. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Tell your friends, like and subscribe. Do everything you can to tell everybody what we got going on here. We'd love to have you, and I think that we'll call that a podcast piece. So, for Pete Paguaga, I'm Sean Patrick Bowley. This has been
the Meat Grinder at GameTimeCT.
Love you all.